Today we're doing a different sort of trip with the Scamp. We are using it to go visit my parents, but still practicing social distancing. So normally when we go to visit my parents, we would stay in their house, in their guest bedroom, but that's not really a good safe option right now. So we're taking the Scamp, we're gonna stay at a campground, and then we're just gonna go visit my parents and like sit out on the patio so that everything stays safe. Okay, everything's all set. Got about a 2-hour drive and we're going up to a county campground. I don't think we've ever stayed at a county campground, but it was $27 for the night, so that's not a bad deal.
Hopefully they take dogs.
Yeah, we're like 90% sure we can have Redford, but we'll find out, I guess. For this trip, we were spending one night at Malin Dickerson Campground, which is a county campground in Morris County, right next to where I grew up in Passaic. It has 18 sites, so it's a pretty small campground, but it's part of a larger nature reserve with lots of different hiking trails. There's a lake, a lot of things to do in this area if we had more time on this trip.
Here?
Yep.
Turn left, then your destination will be on the right. Your destination is on the right.
RVs only. It's the dump station.
Oh, we're right by the dump station.
Woo!
There's 5, there's 6.
Oh, we're not too far.
Yeah.
That's actually perfect.
When we got to the office, they had contactless check-in. It's the first time I've ever gone to a campground, and we didn't even have to get out of the car. He just asked what site number we had reserved. I told him, and he checked us off the list. So, super easy. Red is being super patient while we get set up. He's just sitting there waiting. And so this is a different sort of water setup. There's like these rolled up hoses over there, and then you pull this really long hose all the way over to your camper. That's a new system for us. Kind of drizzling a little bit right now, and we have the door open because we're going in and out doing the leveling. But it's interesting to see this fabric that I got for the door. The water is kind of beating up on it, so I wouldn't leave it open if it was pouring, but just with a little bit of drizzle, it seems like it's doing okay. After 2 hours in the car, Red really wanted to take a nap in the Scamp, but the whole point of this visit was to go see my parents, so we had to get back into the car and do a little bit more driving. Got the Scamp all set up and leveled, and it's actually really nice here. Raining a little bit, but it's quiet. There's lots of birds. As much as it would be nice to hang out, Redford's already taken a nap on the bed. The whole point of this trip was to go visit my parents, so we're getting back in the Jeep and going about 20 minutes away to my parents' house. I'm surprised that I've never heard of this campground or this park before, especially because I spent the first 18 years of my life about 20 minutes away, but that was the world before you could just Google something and figure out what's around you. So we headed over to my parents' house, and we're being extra careful on this trip because both of my parents are older and they're in that higher risk category, and Patrick and I both work jobs where we come in contact with a lot of people on a daily basis. We just can't avoid it. So we have to be extra careful when we're around other people. This is the house that I grew up in. Now, it looks very different because my parents have lived there for close to 40 years now, and they've done a lot of improvements to the yard. But this is where I spent my childhood running around in the woods and climbing trees and just being outside all the time. This was the world before cell phones and before everybody had a computer, and every day after school I was outside running around in the woods. You being a mountain doggy? What do you think, Red? You like the mountains? It's definitely raining.
You get tornadoes here?
Hopefully not. Hopefully it's mountainy enough. He's drinking. Oh, Red. The thunderstorm eventually moved on, and we were able to sit outside and have dinner on the patio like we had planned. But then our short visit was over, and we headed back to the campground, back to the Scamp, to stay there for the night before we had to drive back home tomorrow. Hey, Red. What are you doing? Nope. Getting comfortable? No, that's my side. Redford. Redford, that's my side. Okay. Better? Alright. We'll be in a little bit. Oh, yep, that's definitely my side of the bed. What are you doing? You look cozy. We're getting packed up. We have to be out of the site by 12, so we have to get on the road pretty soon. But the park is really nice. I feel like we'll be back. There's some hiking trails that go out from the other side. Actually, I think 2 different hiking trails that leave from here. We just saw a group of hikers walk through. So we don't have time to check that out, unfortunately, but maybe next time. Since it's so close to my parents, I feel like we'll probably come back. It's super quiet. Really, really quiet. It's a strange water system, but it's interesting.
I actually like it.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, it's extremely long hose, so you know you're going to be able to get your fresh water there.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Simple.
Yeah, simple. Yeah. Keeps the cost down.
Yeah, that's why it's $27 instead of $67. We are punctual.
Yeah.
12 o'clock on the dot. There was a backup at the dump station, so we had to wait a little bit. What are you doing? The best part of camping?
Yeah. It's weirdly satisfying when it all comes together, though.
It is nice when you have a good flushed tank. We were talking to a lady who was walking by, and she said that they just got their camper on, Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've had it for less than a week, and they were dumping the tanks for the first time, so Pat came over to help them out. But I think there's a lot of people with new campers right now because, you know, it's really the only thing you can do if you have a self-contained camper to get out. So they do normally have showers, but closed for COVID. And we were talking to another couple, and they are staying in the back loop back here. There's more campsites back there, and they said they really like it there. They've been here a few times. They always go for the farther back campsites. They were booked when I was making the reservation, because it's so we stayed Saturday night and I made the reservation on Thursday night, so pretty last minute. But I think there were 3 sites open. One was a handicap site and then 2 regular sites that were open, but we were lucky to get it. Our quick weekend trip was over and we got back on the road heading back home because we had to work the next day. We were really glad that we had the Scamp so that we were able to visit my parents and really still keep things safe. We got the Scamp almost a year ago now, and I feel like that was perfect timing because there's such a demand for RVs now. They're very hard to find. Even when we stopped at the rest stop, it was so nice to be able to just stay in the Scamp. I didn't even go inside. We were able to let the dog stretch his legs, and then he wanted to go in the Scamp, of course, and hang out. We had our own bathroom, so you can really practice some distancing when you have an RV. We got back on the road and headed home, but little did we know there was quite a big surprise that was in the car with us, but we wouldn't figure that out until a week later. Alright, so story time. We got back from our camping trip, unpacked, got ready for work the next day. It was a pretty typical week, running errands and things like that. But I started to notice when I was in Patrick's car, there were these little cobwebby things on the dashboard and on the passenger door, kind of here and there around the car. And I just remember thinking, oh, I guess we really need to clean the car out. So that went on for a few days. A week later, it was 4th of July. And we went to see some fireworks outside, and Patrick's brother Andy was parked right behind us. So when we were leaving, I walked around to the passenger side of the car, I opened the door, and I looked at the floor of the passenger side of the car, and there it was. The most horrifying spider that I could imagine. And my first thought, because Andy was parked right behind us, was Andy put a rubber spider in the car. He thought he was being funny. But then the spider moved and I started freaking out. Now, I have a pretty decent tolerance for like being outside and camping and bugs and things, but giant spiders are where I draw the line. Not going anywhere near that. So Andy comes over and Patrick's just looking at me from the other side of the car like, why are you panicking? And he casually walks over and he looks at the spider and jumps back. He was like, oh, you weren't joking. So Pat and Andy start trying to frantically catch this spider and get it out of the car. It's super fast. They can't catch it. At one point, Andy thought that he got it in his hat and like flung it out onto the grass. And I'm looking at the grass and I don't see the spider. I was like, I don't think you got the spider. I'm not getting back in the car. So sure enough, Pat shines his flashlight underneath the passenger seat of the car, and the spider was right under there, right where my legs are when I'm sitting in the car, right where I was sitting for 2 hours on the way home from our camping trip the week before. Because as we started to think about where this giant spider could have come from, I remembered one other time that I've seen a spider that big, and that was about 2 years ago after we went, or actually while we were camping in Stokes State Forest, which is also in North Jersey, not far from where we were camping in Morris County. I'll put that clip in here so you can see that one. That is the biggest spider I've ever seen. Oh, why is it so big? I didn't know we had spiders that big in New Jersey. Oh, whatever it is, it's terrifying. I'm gonna leave that right there and continue on to the bridge.
Where's the trolls?
So we started to put the pieces together that this spider got into our car about a week ago when we were camping, and we have no idea how that happened. A spider that big, I can't imagine it just, I don't know, crawling into the car. We didn't have the car open for that long. We were barely at the campsite. So I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how this spider got in the car, and I can't figure it out. But I couldn't get into the Jeep to go home, so Patrick's parents had to drive me home. Pat got in the car, he drove it home. He was fine. He's been driving it for a couple weeks and doesn't bother him at all that there's an enormous spider in his car. I won't get in the Jeep until I know it's dead or somewhere else. So yeah, that's the status with the enormous wolf spider that took up residence in the Jeep.
You worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there. So don't be scared, just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again. And